What were you doing at age 13? Stories are powerful. It has a unique way of connecting us all, of inspiring us, of driving us to do great things with our lives. Today with me in the studio is a young man whose story will inspire you. Here on AnaedoTV. My name is Gwacham Chidiogo. This is that show where we talk about everything teenagers. Here I inspire you to become the best version of yourself because I believe in the potentials you carry. Mr. Ugochukwu, you're welcome to Teens Repiblic.
Thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Learning about you is mind-blowing. I mean, the level of success you've attained at this age is mind-blowing. I mean, you are a multiple times award-winning public speaker with over 12 years of experience. You are the first Nigerian to win the International Nigerian Singapore Debate Championship. And you won that championship with your team, right?
Yes.
You are a CEO, an entrepreneur, and so many other things. I mean, how is it possible that you've been able to attain this level of success at this young age?
Okay, thank you once again for having me. It's such a privilege to be here. So I won't really say, I don't know, but it's I think it's a matter of grace, the grace of God. That's number one. I always tell people I'm an ardent believer of the gospel, and yeah, the grace of God, and of course hard work, resilience, and a lot of intentionality. Exactly. So I tell young people that there is no your life is not straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't give birth to you and then unexpectedly or expectedly you already know where you're going to be. You have to build towards where you want to be in the nearest future. So your life demands a lot of intentionality if you actually want to make it work out, basically. So I think that's like what summarizes my push and all of that.
So you make mention about intentionality, like having a vision.
Of course.
Did you see, at this point you are in your life, when you were younger, did you see yourself getting to this point?
Yeah, definitely. I tell people, even in the next 5 years, I already know what I'm going to do.
In the next 5 years?
Next 5 years.
So currently you have like a 5-year plan?
Of course. So I already see the vision, so I just work basically towards it. And yes, I like I said, you bring up basically all of the things you have to do, right from when you are a child.
Okay.
Or even if you've grown past childhood, wherever stage you are, it's demands that you plan for the future. So have a clear vision of where you are going to. Of course, things happen, contingencies and all of that, but your life places the demand on you to actually make these plans and then work towards it. So you know exactly what you want your life to, the path you want your life to go, and you plan towards it, basically.
Amazing. Now, what are the habits? Because I'm very particular about habits because I know that our habits sum up to become who we are, whether we are intentional about life. Some of the things we do daily accumulate on the long run becomes who we are. Now, what are those habits as a student? You're currently a student, right?
Yes.
What school is that?
African Asia University of Ibadan.
Amazing. Faculty of Law. That's amazing. Now, as a student, what are those habits you've inculcated over these years that has helped you get this far?
Okay. So like I said, the very first thing you need to do is to make the decision to be intentional about your life. And secondly, you have a vision about where you want to be and you work towards it.
Okay.
And then practice, hard work, diligence. These are like basic virtues. We call them basic virtues, but they're actually the principle that defines people's life. Whatever it is that you find yourself doing, after placing intentionality in your life, you have to be very, very focused. You have to be very disciplined, and you have to show a lot of diligence, because even if it's something as little as learning how to greet, even if it's something as little as learning, you have to get better at doing it, because our body is programmed to work in such a way that it responds to the things that you do habitually.
Okay.
So you have to really build yourself. So in your academics as a student, you have to very intentional, like I said, about your academics. You give in like your very best. What I tell myself is I want to learn whatever it is that I'm learning to the extent that I become an authority in that field. So whatever it is that I'm doing, secondary school, you have to make it in such a way that you are the person that people go to when they want something as regards that particular subject area. Or that particular area.
Now, talking about secondary school, you just made mention of secondary school. Most teenagers are in secondary school. Now, please, can you give me a view, a bird eye view? When you were in secondary school, what are the things you did? You were a public speaker and an award-winning one at that. What were there clubs you were part of? What are those things that helped your public speaking skills? Were there clubs in school you belonged to? How did it happen?
Okay, I entered secondary school at a very, very young age. I think at the age of 9 or thereabouts. So I know that at that stage, in fact, at that stage, if you are not careful, that's when you go towards the negative line. So one thing that I'm always grateful is the fact that my parents and some of my teachers basically ensured that I had the right kind of friends around me. So the very first thing you need to do before entering secondary school, or even in any aspect of your life, is to ensure that you have the right set of people around you. Now, so when I entered, I think it was my GSS2 that I joined the debating club, the debating and drama club. I think that's what it was called at that point. So my teacher was very particular about me because maybe she saw something in me. Of course, teachers are very good at that. And I was scouted and I began to represent our school in different competitions. That was exactly how my public speaking career started. And going for zonal levels, from zonal levels, you win up to the national stages. And from national stages to get recognized internationally to you go international by the grace of God. So that was how my public speaking began. So I would say that if I didn't attend secondary school, I would probably not be a public speaker, permit me to say that. So so I started public speaking in JSS2 and JSS3 I continued, JSS1 I continued. But one thing that I always tell people is the fact that it is school. And even though you are acquiring other skills and other habits, you should ensure that you learn how to balance your academics and whatever it is that you are doing. So while I was doing very well on stage, I also had to like ensure that I do very well with my books. Because my daddy will tell you that after everything, if you don't produce a good result, it's every other thing you've been doing will kind of not have the effects that you want it to have. But the result makes the entire thing much more valid. Exactly. So one habit that I cultivated was that I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew I was going to study law right from my basic one. I already knew I was going to study law. So whatever it is that was going on, the distractions and all, my mind was focused on making sure that I become. In fact, I have an easy road towards my study of law. So SS classes, I was very good with science subjects. Okay. Actually, I was very, very good, and I won many awards in JSS classes. So SS classes, my mom was like, okay, I think it's medicine that you have to.
She wanted you to become a medical doctor.
She wanted me to actually be a medical doctor, and I told her that was not the dream. Of course, I'll be good in these things, but that was not the dream. And then the fulfillment would be in studying law. And so she allowed me later on. And then I entered arts class. And from there, we began. And I think the defining moments in my SS classes would be before I came out of school. It was kind of hard because people expected that, okay, I follow the processes. So I follow from normal exams to your mock, then to your senior WAEC, and then JAMB and all of that. But I told them that I had to go and prepare I had to go and prepare. I know that immediately I leave secondary school, there are expectations on me to get admission to the university and get its first sitting and all. And you want to be an inspiration to other people. So I just told my mom that, okay, give me 1 month. I was not coming out. I was doing nothing basically in 1 month. So I shut myself up for 1 month in a room, and I was reading close to 24 hours a day. So it was basically eat, sleep, pray, take your bath, and then you go back to your books. So people didn't really know exactly where I was. Even my teachers were like, okay, he has gotten so proud that he's no longer coming to school. He has gone for outside work and all. So after 1 month, I know that I was actually very much prepared. I was very confident that whatever it is I'm going to do right now, I was going to ace these exams. Of course, it may not necessarily work for everybody. Some people want to be tested on their mock and all of that, but I know that I'm a person that I work very well with getting directions and then ensuring that I get those directions, like I work on those directions to the fullest. So my teachers have already taught me. It was not left to me to focus and get the entire thing.
So at some point you were confident because you had studied and you had prepared.
Of course.
How do you study?
Okay. Okay. First, I get my timetable. I think that's the very first thing. We have a lot of things to read. It's best to get your timetable to know exactly what you have to read. And I ensure that I cover every single aspect of my textbook. I tell people in secondary school, notes are good, your teachers are trying and all, but if you really want to be successful in external exams, you have to get textbooks.
The textbooks.
You have to read textbooks, and you don't just read textbooks, chapter 1, okay, you go to chapter 4, chapter 6.
Just randomly.
Exactly. You don't read randomly. You have to follow the textbook from page 1 to the very last page. For example, now if I'm talking to my siblings, it is not, okay, I think you should read this chapter. I think you should read this chapter. This chapter will come out. I tell them the textbook is basically everything that the government and people that have been there expect you to know.
It's a syllable that where your question is coming from the content of this textbook.
Of course. So it's wise that you basically finish the entire textbook. So I know I read most of my textbooks. Like I know my literature I read up to 20-something times.
20-something times.
Yes,
a textbook.
Definitely.
From start to finish.
Yes.
Start to finish.
Yes, 20-something times. And at some point, I could tell you ask me something and I don't just tell you the answer, I tell you the page. Because I've read it so very much that, okay, I was prepared for these people and all of that. So, like I said, I always mention intentionality. You have to be very committed and you have to be very diligent about whatever it is. If you've said to yourself, I'm going to do this, put in a lot of work to ensuring that you are an authority in that field.
A lot of work. Now, there's a challenge I notice most people have these days, and there's so much distraction. I mean, with social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, tweet, it's just all over the place. And young people, most of them, I was speaking to a young girl the other day, and she has left school at SS2. And she said she was no longer going to continue. And when she was asked, she said, well, school is scam. If the people that have graduated so far, what have they been able to do? I mean, she's stuck in that there are no jobs, so she doesn't need school. And the time I was speaking to her, she was very much interested in gathering TikTok followers. I think she said she had about 900. She had this passion to get it to 1,000. She was even willing to buy and pay for followers. Now, someone like that out there listening to us, what would you have to tell the person about the importance of getting a good education?
Okay. I think the worst thing that has happened to this generation is that particular slang that school is scam. A lot of 2020, because at that point I was still teaching. This is like my 7th year of teaching professionally. So in 2020, there was this, after the COVID, there was this massive, in fact, people were not really paying attention to academics again. Teachers left, students left, massively. And it's affecting the educational system right now because the talents that are supposed to make it better some of them have left. And one thing I'll tell people is school is a preparatory ground. You don't necessarily need to see the benefits immediately, but it has a long-term effect. And if you see someone that went to school and somebody that did not go to school, there's a lot of difference.
Clear difference.
There's a clear difference between these two. And one thing that people make, like one mistake that they make, is that they think school is all about going to school and then getting a particular field and ensuring that, no, school is all about you becoming wiser than you were before. So even if it's even if it's maybe, let's say, fishery that you want to do, you can easily go and learn how to make a pond and all of that. Even if it's fishery you want to do, you still need school, because we don't need the crude fish ponding techniques and all. Nigeria should get to a point where we are looking at first world countries per se, and what they are doing. They are no longer on the crude area, and then you see students focusing on, okay, let's make this in a crude manner, permit me to say that. They are focused on things like artificial intelligence and all of that. So they are advancing. So that's exactly what school does. The more younger generation, the more they are in school, the more advanced the society becomes. So that's like for the society. Let's come down to the person. What do you tend to gain from school? First of all, believe that school is not scam. Even though there are no, I won't say there are no jobs actually, because if you go to school, you are able to create jobs. I think that's one of the highest contribution, or that's one of the highest things about going to school. You are actually able to create your own job, and not just create this job. You know exactly how to create it in such a way that it benefits a lot of people. Benefits a lot of people, and you also gain your revenue and gain your own income. So school stands you out, basically. School stands you out.
Would it be safe to say that you had the opportunity of traveling outside this country? Now, on what basis would it be safe to say that because of education, that education opens doors for people, it gets people to a point where they have opportunities come their way because they did not just school, but they are educated? I think most times the misconception comes from schooling and being educated, because most people just go to school, come back, it's like a thing, but they don't really get educated. They don't grow, they don't acquire skills. But I think education is far more than schooling. The conventional, go to school, spend 4 years, come back, and that's why they come back, they are stranded because they cannot, they feel there are no jobs, whereas an educated man should be creating jobs and making these opportunities available for. So would it be safe to say, would I be right to say that education gave you that privilege?
Of course, definitely. I would say that if I didn't go to school, if I'm not going to school, and if I didn't open myself to actually learning these things in school, I don't think I'll be sitting here today, speaking to teenagers. I don't think I'll be an inspiration. Maybe because, he's intelligent, let's say naturally. I wouldn't say naturally, but let's just say that, he's intelligent naturally. I'll probably be doing well as maybe a shoemaker. Of course, I don't want to go to school, so maybe I should learn a skill. I'm probably doing well. But then I am not affecting the lives I'm supposed to affect. I'm not affecting the larger generation. There are things that I'm supposed to do, because I believe that each and every one of us have a purpose, on this earth. So I think school kind of opens your mind to what exactly you are good at. So for me, I don't think I'll be sitting here today. I don't think I would have done half of the things that I've done by the grace of God if I didn't go to school. I've already told you that it was my JSS classes that my teacher saw that I'll add gift of public speaking, and she identified it.
That point is very important, that teachers should see the potentials the students that are given in their care carry. But these days, it's like we see the opposite, where a child goes to school And these teachers, instead of grooming, instead of helping these young people bring out the stuff that they are made of, you see these teachers talk down on the students. Teachers even bully the students, tell them things that lower their esteem. So what would you have to say to a teacher listening to us, those of them that are still intentional about raising good students? What do you have to say to them?
I tell people, I like different professions, but teaching is still, or teachers are basically, they are still like my very favorite people, because I believe that teachers basically shape the world. That's the truth. So it's alarming and very disheartening to see a teacher. You call yourself a teacher. Not everybody that calls
themselves teachers are teachers.
You call yourself a teacher, and then your child comes to you. This child sees you as somebody that can help him or her with this particular problem. And then you see them making statements like, they don't pay me enough, get out. And then you see teachers go as far as calling names, calling these students names and all. This is like my 7th year of teaching, and I've never for once, it was a policy that I made, not just to me, but to every other person that I meet, because I also manage my father's school. So it is a policy that you do not have the right to call any child dull or stupid or any of those names, because every child is unique in their own way. The fact that he's not learning the way others are learning does not mean that he or she would not learn. The reason why there are a lot of success stories when I teach is because I give each and every person that space they need. So as teachers, it is your responsibility to ensure that a child is well nurtured in any field. Teachers are still they are the greatest profession, and they are kind of the greatest people on earth, because really there is nothing we are doing on earth that was not propagated by teachers. So as a teacher, you should be very, very intentional about your kids. I don't think if you don't have passion, if you're not passionate about teaching, you shouldn't actually teach, because teaching demands a lot of job.
You need to say that again. You need to say that again.
Teaching demands a lot of strength. It is stressful.
Very, very,
very stressful. You stand in front of the class, and then you talk, and
it's exhausting.
If you now teach little children, primary school students, and primary school pupils, that's when you know that there is work. This is work in and of itself. So you have to be very passionate, and you have to see your job as
a ministry.
Exactly. Fulfilling a purpose. That's okay. I am here to ensure that these children are the best versions of themselves, and then you commit yourself to actually doing it. And that's why before I leave any class, I always make sure that each and every person in that class will be given a platform. You'll be given a platform. I ensure that thing that you are very good at, you are seen for it. Most of the time, children just want to be seen. That's the truth. Most of the time, they just want to be seen. They just want you to tell them, you are doing very well. I've seen. Let me give like a practical example. One of my students now, currently like the overall best in maths in school. When she was in primary school, I was opportunity to teach her. At that point, she was, in fact, they were basically giving up on her because her parents thought school was not for her. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They think school is not for them, and some of this is caused by teachers in some aspects, or in a great way. So this girl basically was okay. After basic 6, I'm going out. I won't go on with schooling and all. But I found out that she was very good with her fingers. She could count.
Her fingers,
yes. She could basically, if you give her an arithmetic, others might use their head, but then she uses fingers. Some teachers will see that as, you're taking us back, okay, 2 plus 2, and then she's doing, others have already said 4. So she was very good with her fingers, and she barely lost any arithmetic problem just by using her fingers and using all those strokes and all. So I knew that she was actually maths inclined, but people were not really seeing it. So when I urged her on, and I gave her textbooks, like I bought my own textbook, and then I gave her, and then private teaching and all of that, the girl became like a star in maths from basic 6, right? I think right now she's in SS2. she's exceptional when it comes to maths. So that's basically what a teacher should do. You identify their strength, you identify their weaknesses, you thank them or you compliment them for their strength, and then you work on their weaknesses, and then you also ensure that you have like a metric for measuring their success. So you don't just teach, come to school, teach, and then go home. We'll finish for today. But then there's a metric. Okay, if my students are able to achieve this, that means my job is going fine. But if they are not able to achieve this, something must be wrong,
I need to do
and then I need
something
to
else.
work on it.
Wow,
So don't give up basically on your
That,
children.
that's amazing. Now, finally, we've talked about teachers, we've talked about the students. Now, let's just wrap it up with the parents. I mean, you said something about your parents and how they've been supportive in your journey so far. Now, what are the things you think the parents out there listening to us, what can they do to support their kids? You made mention of your mom wanting you to study medicine, but at some point you wanted to become a lawyer, and right now you are in the path, you're almost finished at the path, and you were doing great and amazing. I don't know what life would have been for you if you've gone to study medicine. You would still be doing great, because some of these principles that you employ, the hard work, the discipline, I think if you continue with that, if you apply that to whatever course you choose to study, you still come out fine. But here you are doing exactly what you want, and you are still successful. What would you tell parents out there listening to us? How can they support their teenagers?
Okay, the very first thing I'll tell parents is your children look up to you. That's the basic truth. Some parents see their children as maybe they've grown, or maybe they think the child is getting stubborn and all. Amidst that stubbornness, that child still looks up to you. Like I was telling my dad, parents are like the remote. They should control everything basically. But at some point, you begin to give this choice to your children. So as a teenager, one of the things that a parent should do is to give them freedom of choice. Now, let's be very clear, freedom of choice to make, freedom to make choices for themselves, career path and otherwise.
And to trust them.
Of course. And then don't give them the choice to become bad. Because this is what parents do. Some parents, it would be stereotypical to say rich parents, but they allow their children because they feel their children they're already made and all. And so you see them buying maybe like tablets, buying phones at a very young age because they want to show off. At that point, they don't need all of those things. So it is left for you as a parent to understand timing. So you understand timing at this particular stage. This is what my child needs. At this particular stage, this is what my child needs. For example, there's a difference. Like there are differences in training a child. Training a child of 6 years, training a child of 7 years, and training a teenager of 13 or 14 years. So there are ways you do these things. So for parents, understand that your child looks up to you and you have a lot of influence on those children, especially in the early stages of their life. So number 2, give them a level of choice when they've gotten to that stage. Don't ever choose a career for your child, because if he or she is not fulfilled, the person will not do very well. The reason why I can confidently talk about my journey and I can tell you that I'm enjoying it, I'm really enjoying this journey, is because at some point, even after my mom wanted me to study medicine, she became very supportive, and even my dad was supportive, of course, from the very beginning. And you see that it is basically about ensuring that you don't disappoint. So there are people that you know that you don't, in fact, you should not disappoint.
You should not
So
disappoint.
you don't disappoint your parents, and of course you don't disappoint destiny. That's number 1. But amidst that, there are still people that you know that, okay, they're expecting something. They've given to you, and to whom much is given, much is expected. So they've given to you, they've expended their energy, they've given their finances, they've given their advice and all. So it's left to you to ensure that you make them proud, basically. Sometimes, one thing that gets me going is I have to make my parents proud. They cannot suffer.
You can't disappoint them.
Exactly. And then later they also they keep suffering. So parents should understand that it is their responsibility, not even the teachers at this point. The first responsibility falls on the parents to ensure that they are very intentional about their children and to ensure that the children are doing very well academically, very well in other aspects. So while you're providing your child with the opportunity to be very good with their academics, also provide them the opportunity to be very skillful in other things. So you have your purpose, you have your ambition, and all. Because most of the time, purpose is different from ambition. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that.
Of course.
Yeah, so purpose is different from ambition. Sometimes they could be the same thing, but maybe you are called to ensure that. Okay, let me use myself as an example. I know that I have a purpose to ensure that children that are less privileged have access to education. And that's what formed my foundation, the Chineke Ugochukwu Foundation.
You have a foundation?
Yes. So
amazing.
So we basically like give out scholarships and all of that. So that's like my purpose. My ambition is low. So you see the difference right now. And one of the things that is helping me also is the skill I've acquired. So you have purpose, ambition, and skill. Whatever it is that you are doing, ensure that you have a skill. Ensure that you nurture a particular gift. For example, I'm not very good at studio things, social media, and all of that. I'm good at it. So that's like my own niche, my own gifts, my own skill. For others, it is studio, it is social media, and all. So while you are busy making sure that your academics is not suffering, you are going to school, you are making waves by the grace of God. Also have something different. One of my teachers called it certificate and certificate.
Certificate.
Yes, so
I think I've heard that term somewhere.
So you have your certificate
and your certificate. There is something you have to do.
Exactly.
I mean, public speaking is a skill, and it's an amazing skill that can take people far, that can lift people, and it pays people.
Of course.
Public speakers are paid. Well, while I'm not sure about that in Nigeria. I know public speakers outside the country, they are paid millions of dollars to speak.
I made my first million in public speaking too.
Are you serious right now?
Yes. So like it pays actually.
It pays. It pays. It's been amazing having you here, Mr. Ugochukwu. Thank you so much for coming. You will come again sometime because I love how stories inspire us, and I want to believe that everyone out there that has listened to us, you must have learned one or two things. Please work hard as a teenager. Make sure you are disciplined and you apply intentionality in your life. You have a laid out vision of where you want your life to be headed, and then you work hard and you will get there. You are an amazing individual. You have a lot of potential. There is so much deposit that you have in you. I want you to believe in yourself because I believe in you. You have a voice, a unique voice. The world will hear your voice and feel your impact. I'll see you next time.